Hello, it's me again, Madam Shukran from Educare Institute, and we are proceeding with Form 4 Necta solvings, specifically in English language. For today's session, we'll have a discussion on Necta 2019 solving question number 11. It reads, using two novels you have studied under this section, analyze bad behaviors which should not be adapted in Tanzania context. Provide 3 points from each novel. So these bad behaviors, it is also known as bad traits. Bad traits, tabia mbaya au tabia mbovu, tabia ambazo hazitakiwi kuigwa katika jamii. So from the nature of this question, it needs a candidate to give the bad behaviors which have been seen in two novels, then which are not allowed or should not be adapted by Tanzanian people or Tanzanian context. From this question, we have 3 parts, which is introduction, main board, and conclusion. In introduction, we give the definition of bad traits or bad behavior. Then we give examples if necessary. Then in main board, we go to the key points or the answers of this question. Then in conclusion, we can give the effects maybe of these bad traits and advice or what should be done in order to bring development or bring changes. In this question, the key element is bad trait or bad behavior. The weak behaviors of a person that deviate from the society's norms and values. So it means that in every society or katika kila jamii wako na yale tunasema maadili au muundo wao au namna wanavyoishi, wamejiwekea kwamba sisi hapa labda lazima mdogo amsalimie mkubwa. For example, in Tanzania, you may see that for the older person, the young should say shikamoo, to mean that it is a respect to that person. So if you deviate from that norm, means that you have a bad behavior or bad trait, kwamba kila ambacho wamejijengea jamii husika au jamii fulani, ukienda kinyume na kile kilivyotakiwa, pale unaonekana kwamba una tabia mbaya au tabia yako si njema. So you have a bad behavior or bad trait. So the society's norm should be followed. So in tackling this question, 2 books will be used, which are novels. The first one is Past Thee Like a Shadow, which is written by Bernard Mapalala. Another one is Unanswered Cries, which is written by Osman Conte. By starting with Past Thee Like a Shadow, we have some points. The first one, violence should not be adapted in Tanzania. Violence. Here we can see that Adieri seems to fight with his wife and children, which destroys peace of the family, leads to physical and psychological pain. So Tanzanians should not adapt violence in order to keep peace of the families. Here, this violence is the bad behavior. It is not a good behavior. For example, in wife beating, it is not allowed among of Tanzanians or in Tanzanian society. So from the novel, ideally, the husband fights with his wife and children. Sometimes he may beat his children due to his alcoholic behaviors. So he destroys the peace of the family, anaharibu ile amani ya familia. For example, miongoni mwa walevi wengi huwa wana tabia ya kupiga wake na watoto, yani akiingia ndani he wants the family and the neighbors to recognize his presence. So in doing that, you may find him in wife beating, which destroys the peace of the family. Unakuta kwamba watoto wanatawanyika, yani wakisikia baba amekuja basi kila mtu anatafuta kwa kujificha, which is not a good behavior. So this should not be adapted in Tanzanian society. Another one is drunkenness should not be adapted in Tanzania. Most of people in Tanzania should not adapt drunkenness, since it lowers productive power and family stability, since they become senseless. For example, Adiel can be seen with a lot of women since he's drunkard, who ended up dying with HIV/AIDS. So here ulevi hautaki kuwepo katika jamii, na kama Watanzania hatupaswi kuwa na tabia ya ulevi, because the effect of drunkenness can be observed. Ukiwa mlevi, you lose the mind, your sense. Unakuta mtu anasema anajitambua, but what he is doing is not something which we are supposed to be done by the man or by the person like him. Unakuta kwamba mwanaume anafanya mambo ya ajabu ambayo hayastahili kufanyika, au mwanamke, they don't care about their families, hawajali kuhusu familia zao, hawajali kuhusu watoto, ili mradi kila wanachokipata wanaenda kutafuta pombe. You may see that it lowers productive power. Badala ya kuzalisha kwa ajili ya familia, lakini wanachokipata chochote ni kwa ajili ya pombe, kwa ajili ya kwenda kunywa. Wengine wanasema mimi nimekunywa tu sijalewa, but you may see that what they are doing is senseless, havina maana. Wanafanya vitu ambavyo havieleweki, havina maana, vyenye kutia aibu. So for example, Adiel had a relationship with a lot of women, for example Secretary Bilungi, which made him being a person with no respect. Familia tu ikawa haimheshimu, majirani na watu wakawa hawamheshimu, kwa sababu wanamuona ni mtu ambaye ni mlevi tu, hana maana yoyote, na kilimsababishia kufa kwa HIV/AIDS. So drunkenness should be not adapted in Tanzania. Another point, unfaithfulness should not be adapted in Tanzania. Kutokuwa na uaminifu au kutokuwa waaminifu. In Tanzania, most of majority or the majority should not adapt unfaithfulness, because it destroys the peace of family, even their own lives. Tanzanians should not adapt unfaithfulness. Being a married person but is still going out of wedlock is not a good behavior. For example, Adiel having love affairs with Secretary Bilungi, which destroyed his family and ended up with misunderstanding and death. So here we can see that most of men and women somehow, but most of men have love affair with a lot of girls, or they are going out of wedlock, wanaenda nje ya ndoa kwa sababu labda ya matamanio au mili, tuseme. Wengine kwamba wakikosa kitu fulani wanaenda nje ya ndoa. For example, there are some tribes or some society whereby lacking a male child, it allow a person to go out of wedlock in order to get a male child, kwamba kutokana na kukosa mtoto wa kiume inamruhusu mume kwenda nje ya ndoa kutafuta mwanamke mwingine ili ampatie mtoto wa kiume. But in other societies, if your wife is lazy, you may be allowed to have another wife out of your wedlock. So these are some things which are not allowed and should not be adopted in Tanzania. Kwamba ukikosa tu mtoto wa kiume unaenda kutafuta mtoto wa kiume nje ya ndoa. Ukikosa sijui mke wako amekuaje amekukosea siku moja unaenda kutafuta. It is not a good behavior, or it is not a good thing to be adopted. For example, Adiel, he did it but ended up with death and misunderstanding with his family. Kwa hiyo unasababisha mke anapata stress, anapata hasira, which can be solved by being faithful. So the Tanzanians should be faithful to their families and to their partners in order to keep the peace of their families and brings development. So proceeding with unanswered cries, we are going to have to mention 3 points, and the first one is premarital sex to young girls. We can see that Olabisi and Eddie have multiple sex at the age of 14. Tunamwona kama Olabisi, she's the main character in this novel, Unanswered Cries. She's the main character. In this society, the girls were not allowed to have sex before marriage. And also in Tanzanian societies, this should be adapted. The society of the young girls should not have sex before marriage because it has a lot of effects to their own lives. It keeps them in the risk to get diseases or even pregnancy, and which the early pregnancy have several effects. The among of effects is death or problem during the delivery. So in this novel, we see that it is very dangerous to have sex before marriage. So this should not be adapted also in Tanzanian societies due to its effects to young girls. Another point, womanizing should not be adapted in Tanzania. Womanizing na maana kwamba ni ile hali ambayo wanaume, yani mwanaume unakuwa na wanawake wengi, unakuwa na wanawake ambao unaweza ukatembea nao hata 200, 10, au unakuta 10 per day. Yani unakuta ni wanawake 10 au 5 per day. Yani asubuhi una huyu, saa 4 una mwingine, saa 8 mwingine, saa 10 mwingine, saa 12. It depends. Wengine hata usiku ana change mara 3. It is not a good behavior. So womanizing should not be adapted in Tanzania. You have to be with your wife. From the novel, we see that womanizing is the situation of having more than one woman or engaging in sex affair with large number of women. From the book, Jones can be seen having sex affair with Makalai, Olabisi's mother, Oya, and other women, which lead to conflicts. So among of the effects in womanizing, or for this womanizer, it is family problem or family misunderstanding or family conflicts. So we can see this Ade Jones have the relationship with Makalai, who is Olabisi's mother, mama yake na Olabisi ana mahusiano naye, lakini baadaye anakwenda kuwa na Oya, mwanamke mwingine, lakini ambaye huyu mwanamke alikuwa kule mjini, lakini bado tena na wanawake wengine na wengine na wengine. So it leads to family conflicts. Instead of that, men should be faithful and avoid womanizing or avoid this behavior. Another point, bad traditional beliefs should not be adapted in Tanzania. Zile imani potofu zinatakiwa zisiwepo katika jamii ya Kitanzania au kati ya watu au miongoni mwa watu wa Tanzania. Bad traditional beliefs including witchcraft and FGM or female genital mutilation should not be adapted in Tanzania because it endangers women's lives and society's peace. Put them in the position of being HIV positive, problem during delivery, and death due to highly bleeding. From the book, the society believes that FGM makes the young girls really women. So we can see that these are bad traditional beliefs. Witchcraft. For example, from the poem, there was a woman who was a witchcraft and believed to be the right person in that society, who also operated FGM or female genital mutilation, circumcision for women, ile tohara kwa wanawake. Kwa hiyo huyo mtu aliaminika kwamba ni the real woman ambaye ni mganga, lakini pia anaweza kufanya FGM au circumcision. So this should not be adapted in Tanzania because it has several effects, kwa sababu hii ina madhara mengi. Kwa mfano, wakati wa kujifungua unakuta kwamba wanawake wanapata shida wakati wa kujifungua kutokana na kutokwa na damu sana, lakini pia vile vifaa wanavyovitumia vinaweza visiwe salama, so they may end up with HIV positive. Unakuta kwamba wanapata ukimwi sio kwa sababu walifanya matendo mabaya, au they shared maybe sharp instrument, au walifanya ngono kabla ya ndoa labda. Hapana, but because of sharing those instruments during the action or during circumcision. So this should not be adapted in Tanzanian societies in order to avoid its effect to the young girls in the society. So the bad beliefs should not be adapted. Jamii ya Kitanzania haipaswi kuamini kuhusu tohara kwa wanawake kwamba ni njia pekee ambayo itawafanya kuwa wanawake halisi. Hapana, kuna njia nyingine ambazo zinaweza kuwafanya wanawake wawe halisi. Even maturity can make a woman to be a real woman and not about circumcision. So from that point, let us move to conclusion. In conclusion, you say in order to bring development in Tanzania, Tanzanians should have a look on their behavior and with what they do every day, should read literary works in order to get the intended messages. Also, Tanzanians government should provide conditions on what should be done in bringing development to Tanzanian society. Kwa hiyo kuwa na imani potofu, kufanya mambo maovu, kuwa na humanizing behaviors, kuwa na drunkenness, this all leads to underdevelopment. So in order to have development in Tanzanian societies, the Tanzanian government should provide conditions. Serikali ya Tanzania inatakiwa kutoa conditions au maelekezo, mikakati thabiti kwamba ni kitu gani kifanyike. Haruhusiwi mtu kukutwa na kosa au kukutwa katika hali au katika mipango ya ukeketaji. Hauruhusiwi kukutwa umelewa, hauruhusiwi kukutwa na mwanamke maybe zaidi ya mmoja. So from that conditions may keep the society in a cool, inaweza kusababisha jamii kubadilika. Also should encourage the people or its people to read literary works. Inatakiwa encourage au iinue mioyo ya watu katika kusoma vitabu, hasa vitabu hivi vya fasihi. Ukiachana na vitabu vya darasani, uje kwenye vitabu vya fasihi. Katika fasihi kuna mafunzo mengi, because the literary works reflect what is happening in the societies. So they should give lessons through encouraging people to read books. So from that point, let us have a look on related questions. So the question number 1, analyze bad morals from 2 novels you have studied that should not be adapted in Tanzania. Give 3 points from each novel. So this question is relevant to what we have discussed. Another question, bad morals have destructive effects in most of societies like Tanzania, so they should not be adapted. Give 3 points from 2 novels you have read. So all of these questions shows the relationship to that question which we have tackled earlier by guiding the candidate, or by guiding that the answers you should give the bad morals or bad behaviors which should not be adapted in Tanzania. Another question: FGM should be not adapted in Tanzania due to its effects. Validate this statement by giving 3 points from 2 novels you have read and under this section about the traits which should not be adapted. So you may find that the question have a lot of words, but the answers are the same to what we have discussed in this discussion. So in summary, we had 2 novels, Passed Like a Shadow and Unanswered Cries. And in Passed Like a Shadow, we had 3 points, which are drunkenness, violence, and unfaithfulness. In Unanswered Cries, we had 3 points: humanizing body traditional beliefs and premarital sex. So from that point, it marks the end of this discussion, and we'll be proceeding with discussion to another Nectar questions.